After moving in with an Idahoan, I started going down the rabbit hole of the Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell case. And understand, I'm going to make this video, but you're basically going to be learning this with me because I don't know everything about the case, and I know they've got whole documentaries on it now, so I'm just dipping my feet in. And this is the property belonging to Chad Daybell, where the bodies of Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow were found.
According to a probable cause affidavit, authorities homed in on multiple sites of interest. Police say these places matched the cell phone location of Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, in September 2019, revealing a body wrapped in plastic and duct tape by J.J. Vallow. Chad Daybell was arrested around 11 a.m. as the search continued for 16-year-old Tylee Ryan. Authorities then turned their attention to this area between the Red Barn and a fire pit. The site correlated to several GPS pings of Alex Cox's phone on September 9th, 2019. Authorities methodically sifted through layers of dirt in this area. They found pieces of bones and human tissue, some of which were burned.
And here I am driving past the infamous Red Barn where the two bodies were found. And there's also hints that something was found in the fire pit, but they're not really revealing what that was. Although there's speculation that it might be parts of Tylee's body, because Tylee was last seen the day before Chad Daybell texted Lori Vallow and said, "Hey, I shot a raccoon, I'm going to burn it in the fire pit." And this coincides very conveniently with her disappearance. And it also seems that Alex Cox, who is Lori Vallow's brother, has been involved as a sort of thug for their relationship the whole time. Alex Cox in the past has beaten up people who oppose the cult, has been involved with suspicious deaths, and his cell phone pinged right on top of where they found these bodies, indicating that he was hunched over that area for an extended period of time. So if Alex Cox didn't actually kill these children, he certainly knew about the children's deaths and where their bodies were. He's an accomplice to murder. July 2019, Lori Vallow's ex-husband, Charles Vallow, was shot by Alex Cox, who is Lori Vallow's brother. Alex Cox, of course, claimed self-defense. He got away with it. In September of that year, a couple months later, Alex Cox moves up to Rexburg near his sister and her husband, and his cell phone pings over the bodies of the kids, indicating he buried them around September 9th, 2019. And then in December of 2019, Alex Cox himself dies of a blood clot, and you can see by the police footage that his family behaved suspiciously, to say the least.
Give her, please.
Newly released body camera footage from the day Alex Cox died, shedding new light on what happened. That's the voice presumed to be of Alex's wife, Zulema, on December 12th, 2019. The rest of what she says is then drowned out. Gilbert police blurred out this video, and while you can't see much, we are able to hear some of what was said among those who were on scene that day.
I don't know. That's what Mike is probably one of our best paramedics.
He was blue when I walked in.
What's that?
He was blue when I walked in until I started doing compressions. He was blue on the face.
In the clips, you later hear Zulema's son tell officers he found Alex lying on the bathroom floor. This is a conversation between Zulema and one of the officers on scene, after paramedics took Alex to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead.
I'm just wondering, is it possible for you guys to wait outside? My kids are already going through enough trauma as it is without you guys standing right next to them.
So we're definitely not trying to make things worse, ma'am. We're not trying to have anybody feel bad or be anxious, but someone died in your house today, and we're not going to leave your house until we finish that investigation. So
let me ask you this. So why are you saying that someone died in the house when he wasn't even pronounced dead until he was in the hospital?
Well, the incident started here. I get that he was pronounced deceased at the hospital, but all of that started here. It didn't start in the hospital. It started in this house.
Again, I'm all just learning this as I make the video, but immediately what I'm reminded of is the LeBaron group. And LeBaron, likewise, was a Mormon fundamentalist cult, and it was a family blood feud cult, and Ervil LeBaron split off from his brother and started advocating for blood atonement. Basically, the very old Mormon message, very outdated, of shed their blood so that they can no longer sin, and you will atone for their sins. And he did this to his brother, and then he did this to Reuel Allred, who was the leader of a quite influential rival sect, and then he just started doing it with other people, and then he killed his own assassin in Manti Canyon. So this is all being done in order to perpetuate his family and his cult. But what makes this so different is that it is being committed by a woman. Usually the cult leaders traditionally are men, and they manipulate the women underneath them. But it seems here that you have Lori Vallow manipulating her brother into killing her ex-husband, into killing the two children that she and her fourth husband were living with, and then possibly into killing himself. And what you arrive at is that there are probably many people within this cult that the Vallows were a part of. And it makes you wonder how many people are basically sleepers. Certainly with the LeBaron group, dozens of people were killed at their behest. We're here in the Springville City Cemetery looking at the grave of Tammy Douglas, the wife of Chad Daybell. And she was a very faithful, well-respected woman who loved raising animals. She raised ducks and cats and dogs, and her grave has her as a beloved wife and a mother, devoted daughter and sister, and friend to all animals. Basically, because she was very faithful LDS, she worked in cataloging graves and preparing genealogical research. She had a list of over 100,000 names compiled for the church. And at the local cemetery here in Springville, she met Chad Daybell, who kind of had similar interests. He was a sextant and a gravedigger, and he did his job well enough. Well, around 2015, he starts receiving these revelations telling him to move to Idaho, and he brings along Tammy with him. And around October of 2019 is when the murders begin. Lori Vallow's husband dies. He is shot in his driveway in Arizona, and a little bit later after that, Tammy Daybell reports that a man kind of walked up to her in the driveway dressed in all black with a balaclava on and shot at her with a defective paintball gun. And she said defective because it was very likely really loud. It was a real gun, and she just didn't want to believe that an attempt had been made on her life. And 10 days later, she died in bed next to Chad Daybell. Now, the police didn't do any investigation, even though he got married 5 weeks later to a woman whose husband had mysteriously died only a couple days prior. So this was kind of overlooked for a very long time, but the two kind of met in this cemetery here in Springville, Utah, before they moved up to Rexburg, Idaho. And lastly, I just wanted to include a couple of places that were associated with the killings. Firstly, here's the public school that the children went to, and I actually believe it was at this school that one of them was last seen. So the family, again, in 2015, they moved up from central Utah, just south of Salt Lake City, to Rexburg, because apparently the father believed he was hearing revelations. And he moved up, the kids were in school, they were interacting with other students, and then they just went missing. One of them went missing near Yellowstone, last seen there, and I believe the other one was last seen at the school. And just down the road from the school, you have the storage locker where the father was seen basically putting all of their stuff. So the general order of events here is it seems that the kids were probably drugged and killed very expediently, and then the parents, believing that they had some kind of divine intervention, thought they could just pretend that they didn't kill the kids. They went on living their lives as normal. They tried to restart by going to Hawaii, thinking that nobody would pursue them. But the whole time, I mean, obviously, if you buy a storage locker and you have your brother, who's already kind of suspected of murdering somebody, transport all of your kids' belongings to the storage locker, and your brother has already texted you saying, there's raccoons buried in the backyard. I had to bury 2 raccoons in the backyard. Becomes pretty blatantly obvious what you did. And then when the brother dies and you have all the footage of him taking all the kids' belongings from their home to the storage container, it's totally obvious who did this. And what's fascinating is, yes, it's a cult. And it's a family cult. It's mostly isolated to their family. But the fact that they were able to rope in so many people by latching on to this kind of weird new age preparing a people structure. And then from that larger structure, which as I understand it is just kind of a Mormon prepper podcast, they could find individuals who are more likely to join with their cause. And I mean, everybody has had the thought at some point or another that, oh, that person's a zombie. That person isn't really a person, right? It's a fun thought exercise, but then you hear these guys saying it, and then before you realize it, you're in over your head. And I think that that's how most cults start. They latch on to an already esoteric group, and they send out the feelers and find weird people like Alex Cox and Lori Vallow.